Nigel, great to have your company.
Good to be here.
Great to share a meal with you.
It's looking good. It's looking good.
This is your favourite place, isn't it?
It's very eccentric. It's a bit of a one-off.
Yeah.
I love it. And, you know, we're an old country. And you come to a place like this that's been here for a long, long time, and you get a sense that history, where you come from, is actually quite important.
And legacy too.
Well, legacy is important, although I worry right now that the legacy we're going to lead to the next generations is going to be a bad one, which is why on the 3rd of June last year I came out of political retirement. I'd done my bit. I've been a crusader for over a quarter of a century for us to leave the European Union because I wanted us to get back our sovereignty, our ability to run our own lives. And then I saw what a mess the establishment had made of it. And we're going downhill. We're in economic decline. You know, people are getting poorer. Oh, the super rich might be getting richer, but the average folk are getting poorer. We're in societal decline. Do you know, shoplifting now, you can shoplift now up to £200, that's about 400 Aussie dollars, without being prosecuted.
And no one comes after you. I've heard stories of people coming in, stuffing things in their bag.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Just accepted. Knife crime off the charts. You know, a teenager being stabbed and killed now. Doesn't really make the news.
So the government changed here 6 months ago. It feels like it's now on the brink of collapse. What's gone wrong?
So the last election was an anti-Tory vote.
Yeah.
You know, Boris had a massive 80-seat majority back in 2019, which, by the way, I helped him with.
Absolutely.
You know, I helped him with because I thought we've got to get this Brexit thing finalised after years of agony. And whilst I knew he was pretty liberal, I just couldn't have believed the level of betrayal on mass immigration, on some net zero policies that are literally deindustrialising Britain.
Which then got infected all the way through to Australia because of the Glasgow conference and Scott Morrison signing up. But
the COP.
We won't digress there.
No, the COP event was quite remarkable in the way that you and Canada and many, many others followed. But so Labour won, but they got a third of the vote and 2/3 of the seats. And the first past the post system is a very odd thing in terms of the way in which it can work. But it was a loveless win. Starmer, you know what, if he was sitting with us now, perfectly nice chap, nothing wrong with him, but he's a human rights lawyer, he's a globalist, he's an internationalist, he doesn't really believe in national sovereignty, doesn't really believe in borders or anything like that. And within 6 months, or 7 now, their popularity has fallen at a rate the likes of which we've never, ever seen. I thought the honeymoon might be short, but it appears it wasn't. I don't think the marriage was even consummated. I mean, it's just gone wrong from day one. And the negativity. Now, you've got Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, who looks like she's attending a family funeral every day. Not one of the 25 members of the Cabinet has ever worked in private business. Can you believe that? I mean, literally, can you believe that? Out of 25 men and women, not one of them. And they are literally talking us into recession. The economy is going down. The budget they introduced is a catastrophe. And everything from business to care homes to doctors' surgeries will, from the 1st of April, be laying people off. And then we've had the development of something called two-tier Britain. Two-tier policing, two-tier justice, two-tier care. Now, it is true that people like me and Elon Musk have been pushing this narrative, but it's very interesting. So 2 young Muslim men violently assault 2 police officers in Manchester Airport. I mean, you know, broke one of them was a woman, her nose was broken, it was horrible. And don't get prosecuted. Nothing happens. And then we get the murder of those 3 little girls.
Yes.
An event that has, I mean, really shocked the nation.
Went around the world.
Horrific. And anybody that said something online in the wake of that, and by the way, some of it was very intolerant and very unpleasant, but it's kind of words, not actions, and they were in prison before you knew it. So you see this development of a perception, maybe a reality, of two-tier justice and a feeling that somehow some groups in British society are being treated differently to other groups. And that has led to anger on the most astonishing scale. So this government is economically inept, culturally completely out of touch. with the roots of society. And by the way, we are a very tolerant country. We always were a very tolerant country. And we accept people, whatever their colour, religion, sexual preference, whatever it may be.
But not to the point that you lose your way and you lose your values.
But not to the point where those ideas that are separate to our identity start to take us over.
So this is an interesting point then, because you're in a situation now, 6 months into a change of government, where that government's on the nose, but I suspect, I've had conversations with cabbies today, the residual anger at the old government's still there, and here you are coming up through the middle. Now, political parties lose members. They don't gain members. You are gaining them at a rate of knots. I mean, you are
it's incredible.
Not the third force now. I think you're supplanting the Tories as the opposition.
When I came back to the leadership, and by the way, I'd walked away. Mm-hmm. I'd left. I was the Brexit Party. I'd rebranded it Reform. Mm-hmm. It was kept on care and maintenance. When I came back on June the 3rd, we had about 30,000 members. Today, we've gone through 210,000 paid-up members, wow. And they're all paying £25 to be members, and we're growing 1,000 a day, 500 another day. There's a real energy, a real enthusiasm. Why? Well, part of it is a failure of the Labour government to give us any sense of hope or optimism. Another part of it is the Conservative Party just isn't fit for purpose. It has no message that resonates at all. And frankly, half the Tory party should be with me. The other half should be with the, liberal left, liberal Democrats.
Same thing in Australia. But you mentioned first past the post. You first past the post system here. History sort of says that a divided right can't win against a united left. Yeah. What do you think about that?
So let me just finish the last point very quickly, if I can. Why are we doing so well? Vibe. Positivity. Our members, our supporters, you come to an event that I do, they're nearly all sold out within 24 hours. Book 1,000-seater, gone. In some ways, we're the most pessimistic people in the country because we fear that within a decade, all of our values would have been trashed and trounced. But on the other, we're the most optimistic group of people because we believe with the right leadership we can turn this country around. So it's very, very interesting. The vibe is positive. We're talking about what we can do, not what we can't do. Now, first past the post, you are looking at somebody who won 2 national elections in 2014 and 2019 under proportional representation, won 2 European national parliamentary elections. But in general elections, I've not made the breakthroughs that were commensurate with the votes we got.
Yes.
For every Reform MP, right now, there are 820,000 votes. For every Labour MP, there are 34,000 votes. I mean, the numbers are stark. However, first past the post can be your enemy, but there comes an inversion point at which it becomes your friend.
And are you there now?
On the numbers, looking at not just one poll, but dozens of polls over the last few weeks, we are literally at that inflection point.
So serious people I've spoken to here that I know and trust inside politics say you genuinely could be the next Prime Minister. So if you were in Downing Street, how is Britain better and stronger in a Farage government than it is now?
Well, the first thing is we'd have people in government who actually have done stuff in life. And you have to recognise that without wealth creation, you have nothing. It's all well and good having a wonderful health system or whatever else it may be. You have to pay for it.
Yep.
And without wealth creation, none of that can happen. So the first point is to have people who have more competence, more understanding of what wealth creation is actually about. The second point is to be more honest and to level with people about just how much trouble we're in. I mean, no one talks about the national debt. I mean, our debt interest repayments are now £100 billion a year. That's 200 billion Aussie dollars a year. Our defence budget's only 50 billion a year, just to give you some sense of context of how much poorer, how much more indebted we're becoming. So honest conversations about how badly we're doing, honest conversations about the welfare state. Another 1 million people since the start of the pandemic are on disability benefit because they've had a 10-minute Zoom consultation with a doctor. Say, Doc, I'm feeling a bit down and depressed. Oh, well, that's fine. Go on disability benefits and stay there for the rest of your life. We can't go on like this.
No.
But everyone's been too cowardly to to take these things on for fear of the onslaught they'll get on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it these days.
And you think that's changing?
I do.
The ability to have these honest conversations is changing.
Absolutely, and a lot of this is coming from America. You know, a friend of mine just won an election in America.
Might have heard of him.
He's doing quite well. And the DEI agenda and all this madness.
It's even like it's washed across Australia in the same way as well. He's got our corporates who are locked into this stuff to take it out of their boardroom papers in a way that if we'd been knocking on the door in government, they would never have done it. So on that point, have we reached peak woke?
Oh, I think so, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, there's clearly further to go. Our health service is still full of it. Our financial services industry is still full of it. But the change is coming. And generally, what happens in America happens here. We generally follow all the social trends from America. They gave us woke. We gave them Prince Harry back. At least that was trying to get even. But no, it's coming. There is a massive change coming in the corporate world, which will feed through to the public sector. But the other issue that we've got to get right is immigration. You know, and of course, you know, all through my career, you talk about this, you're called nasty names, so everybody backs away and runs away. The numbers are extraordinary. I mean, from the 1940s until the turn of the century, net migration into Britain averaged about 30,000 a year. Net migration in 2023 is 1 million. Just get some sense of perspective of what the last Conservative government did. We can blame Labour for opening the doors, but actually it's the Conservative government that opened the doors in a way that's astonishing. I know that. And
do you know who they are? This is the thing too.
I know who they are.
With all the security challenges, these people are coming in a peaceful invasion.
Well, you, of course, I mean, slightly separate but linked, you, of course, had the problem going back 15 years of the boats coming from Indonesia, something that Mr Abbott, I think, helped to turn around rather successfully. I mean, since Keir Starmer came to power, 25,000 young men have crossed the English Channel. 25,000 men, mostly from Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq or Iran, all undocumented. All of whom throw their iPhones in the sea when they get to 12 miles from our shores, chuck their passports in the sea. I've actually been out and filmed this. And watched them doing it.
This is the issue about values too.
So there's a huge security threat.
Yeah.
There's a numerical problem with schooling, housing, etc. There's a community cohesion problem. But perhaps above all, there's a national security problem. And it's real. And we are beginning to see, in Europe particularly, more and more of these young men committing crimes of the most heinous, most astonishing nature. You've seen motor cars. I mean, what's the point of banning knives if people drive cars into crowds?
So I want to ask you, because this will be a feature of our campaign, which is about to start in Australia, when the Prime Minister calls it, that we have never had before. Parties that identify as Muslim only, that are trying to harvest Muslim votes to not at this stage run candidates, but to influence particularly the Labor left. So they run very heavily on Gaza issues. Now, it's been a feature here for some time.
No, it's quite recent, actually.
Is it here?
It's quite recent.
From the councils, it's now, though, in the Commons. How do you tackle it here?
Sectarian voting. I've grown up seeing Northern Ireland with sectarian politics. And, you know, everyone forgets how awful Northern Ireland was in the 70s, 80s and through the 90s. You know, 3,500 people killed, thousands more maimed, wounded. This was sectarianism between Catholic and Protestant in Northern Ireland. I never thought I'd see sectarian politics on the mainland. I never thought we'd see it in England, Scotland and Wales, and now we are. And yes, they call themselves the Gaza Independents. But I've heard them in the House of Commons, because there were 4 of them got elected on that ticket, and a 5th, Jeremy Corbyn, the former Labour leader, who's kind of on that ticket as well. And I listen to them in debates. They're apologists for blasphemy laws. They're apologists for first cousin marriages. You can see where this is going. And it's very interesting. But the left in British politics is becoming more divided than any commentators realise. There are 2 factors. One is the pro-Gaza independence. And if you look at the demography, the sheer number of young Muslim teenagers living in northern cities and towns who will be eligible to vote by the time of the next general election. Gaza Independence next time won't win 4 seats, they'll win 30, maybe 40, all coming straight from the Labour Party. Labour will rue the day they welcomed all of this stuff and encouraged all this stuff. And the other element is the Green vote. And the Green vote now is a solid 7 to 8% in this country. It's not going anywhere because there are people out there who, through the indoctrination of the university system in particular, think we're all going to be dead by next Thursday and we should all never fly again, never own motor cars. I mean, sad, miserable lives.
It is.
God, we couldn't even approve of a drink, this lot. I mean, and they're not going anywhere either, and they're getting cleverer at targeting their resources at winnable seats. So everyone talks about the split on the right. You know,
so you're going back to my point before about 2PP.
Yeah, I'm coming back to it. I'm sorry.
You're right.
But the left is split, and that split's getting worse.
So I shouldn't assume that the left is united.
And to say the right is split is to misunderstand something quite fundamental. A lot of my supporters and voters actually come from traditional, old Labour, patriotic backgrounds. They may have had different attitudes towards taxation to me in the 80s and 90s, but on the big stuff, about British identity, about believing in who we are, about hard work, about apprenticeships, about the importance of family, community and country, we're absolutely at one. And to many of the people, given we're now polling 27%, if I was to say tomorrow, I'm going to do a deal with the old Etonians in the Conservative Party, I mean, they'd be appalled by it. So what's happening here, a little bit like the way that Trump has totally redefined what left and right means in American politics.
That's what's happening here.
The Brexit vote did that in 2016, and now it's taken a few years for the aftershocks of that earthquake to reveal themselves politically, and that's the support base that I've got.
So we shouldn't think of reform as a new manifestation on the right. We should think of it as a new manifestation.
It's a new phenomenon.
Yeah.
It's a new phenomenon that brings together a coalition of people who, in the past, may have been separated. And the day that I came out of this, came back to this rather, 3rd of June, I'm sitting in the car, coming up from the country to London to do a press conference, which nobody expected, to say I'm coming back. I thought in the car, why am I doing this? Why am I giving up a good life? Why am I giving up, the chance to pop back and forth to America? And I turned 60 last year and 2 grandkids born last year. So kind of that point in life where you might start thinking about maybe.
And I don't, I've worked in politics. A lot of people don't know the drudgery that's involved. So it's a big call to come back.
Well, it's not drudgery so much. I mean, it's never drudgery with me, I can assure you, because it's always fun. But no, massive life commitment, and probably the last big decision professionally I'll ever make in my life. And I'm sitting in the car thinking, why am I doing this? And that was where it came to me. I'm doing it because I care about the future of my family, and I'm worried about the decline we're in. I'm doing it because I believe in community. I grew up in a village where everyone knew everyone. Didn't mean they all loved each other, but we all had a common shared goals, interests and culture. And I'm doing it because this is a country that has been a great country, a world leader. And that's why I stood up on that stage on that day and I said, I'm here for family, community and country. And you will now see on every reform conference those 3 words up on the screen. And that's what brings people in the past who were on the left or on the right together. These things matter far more than what we think about individual micro issues on monetary policy or whatever else it may be. These are fundamental core issues about who we are as human beings. And I hope that what I do is to impart to people a feeling that I'm unafraid of whatever criticism I may get for standing up and fighting for these things. I hope what I impart to these people is a feeling that actually this is the once-in-a-100-year opportunity. This is the first time since 1918 when the Labour Party began to get rid of the old Liberal Party in this country as it was. This is the first time for 100 years we can actually genuinely change politics. And we're not going to make any false promises to anybody about what we can do, but we can turn this country around. And I'm You know, I'm old enough to remember the mid-70s. We had to go to the IMF to get a loan because we were bankrupt. But by the end of the 1980s, London was booming.
Yeah,
you know,
cool Britannia.
Well, it was amazing. And we had, you know, Japanese car firms investing in the northeast of England, American banks piling in here, all the Australian banks opening up bigger and bigger offices here. So I've seen in the past how when things are very, very bad, they can be turned around. And it's my intention between now and when I die to do that again.
Well, you're resonating with Australians. A lot of what you said would resonate in terms of our politics as much as your personality does. So we wish you all the best, Nigel Farage.
Thank you.